Hey, this is Harry, and you're listening to Litt Podcast, a show where we speak with New York City event hosts and their stories. This week, I'm speaking with Ben and Kyra from EGD Collective. Welcome.
Hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm Ben Rubin. I'm the CFO for the EDG Collective.
Hi, my name's Kyra, and I'm the CEO of the EGD Collective.
All right, cool. So, Kyra, could you please tell me more about the backstory of EGD Collective?
So we originally started as a college club at Hunter that was focused purely on game design. I originally wanted to start a game design club, and the school said no because it was too similar to the Fighting Games Association. I found out that the League of Legends Club and the Dungeons & Dragons Club and other clubs were also denied for the same reason, so we decided to merge together. But the school still said no. So we decided to run anyways, thanks to the theater department taking us in, and we were able to run that way for about 2 years. Once the school decided to recognize us and charter us, not much had changed, but we had over 800 members at that point. And we realized that the school couldn't really support us in the ways that we needed to, and so that's when we decided to turn into a nonprofit organization. But our mission really started to change when I started working with students, and we realized just how many roadblocks there were to students being able to graduate, and how many students didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives. And by working with the students and talking to other schools, we figured out that this was not only happening here, but across public schools across the U.S. And I think the statistic is 54.5% of public school students are either housing insecure, food insecure, or homeless. So that's really what we do now, is just helping students figure out what they want to do with their lives, helping them break into the games industry, and just making it an overall better place to be.
It's also a matter of we make sure that they have all the resources available to them, and for the resources that they don't know about, which is 61% of CUNY students don't know what resources to look for or where to find any of the resources they need. We make sure that they know where they can find everything.
Okay. So EGD Collective, what does that stand for?
Esports and Game Design Collective. We originally started as the Game Design Collective, and when we merged, we took on the esports. And when we turned into a nonprofit, we shortened it for
convenience.
Yeah, for convenience.
Yeah, it made it a lot easier, honestly, on us.
For a reason.
Because our college administration was like, yeah, you have to write out your name on every single form, every single time. So you're just writing out Esports and Game Design Collective on forms where they never expected the names to be this long, so it just does not fit. Mm-hmm. And they would not let us abbreviate it no matter what.
That's a good move. So could you tell me more about what does your typical event look like? What's the appeal here? Who should go to your event?
Everyone. So we pride ourselves on being a space where everyone can come regardless of who they are or how they relate to games or the industry. So whether you want to play Candy Crush on your phone in the corner, or you're really hardcore into esports, or maybe you're creative that doesn't really play games but wants to build a portfolio, and games is a great way to do it. Everyone can come together in the same space and do just that. And our events reflect that. We usually have about 3 things going on at the same time in the same place. One thing for game design, one thing for esports, and one for more casual gaming. And if nobody wants to participate in the 3 things that are happening that day, we also have a game library of around 600 games, board games, card games, video games, Tamagotchis, Twister, you name it, that people can just borrow and use in the space. And so what happens is that a lot of people will come in for one thing and they'll come out doing 50 other things. We'll have people come in because they want to be on the League of Legends team, and they come out wanting to become a game designer. And you see it all the time, and it's a really cool thing, in my opinion.
I think we've had at least in the last 2 semesters, we've had at least 20 students alone at Hunter be they came in for esports programs, and then they just came out as game designers, and indie developers out of nowhere. It's nothing they expect in any way, shape, or form, and then they come out after their 2 semesters end for the year, and they're just oh, I'm a game designer now. That's new. I guess this is fun though, so it's okay.
So who's like your typical attendee? So it sounds like maybe they're comp sci and they're coming out and they're choosing to change their major to game design, or
So a lot of our attendees are usually collegiate members. Just in general, like we have a lot of people, English majors, theater majors. A lot of it is comp sci, but like they mostly come from any majors. Like it's more people interested in games because
Mhm.
because of our casual events, our more competitive events, and then our design events. So we try to gather as many people as possible from every major. Like especially like considering game design is composed of like narrative, audio, and then like narrative, audio, animation, and then creative, and then coding. So like we gather as many people. We gather like pretty much any collegiate student we can get, and a lot of them come out like game designers, like I mentioned earlier.
My favorite story is we had one student who's a freshman this year and joined our game design fellowship program, but he was a nursing major. And after about 4 weeks in the program, he's like, I'm switching my major. I'm going to game design. So it was a complete 180 from nursing, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so
especially considering our school is known for nursing, so like that's not a change I expected at all. But it was a really cool change to see, honestly, because like people can discover their passion at a lot of our events. Like if they've ever thought about it, like a lot of people who play games are like, yeah, I've thought about becoming a game designer. They thought about it at least once or twice, but it sounds unattainable. And then like if you come to our events, you realize, oh wow, this is actually a career that I can pursue. This is something I can do with the future in the future. It's not completely unrealistic.
and at
And
the
a lot of
same time of that, at the same time, just to bounce off what Ben just said, a lot of students, especially in CUNY, didn't even think they would be going to college to begin with. And so a lot of them haven't thought about what they wanted to do with their lives. And so they'll either just pick a random major and hope for the best, or they'll be undeclared for 3 years and spend extra time in school and paying extra money.
I was one of those people before I joined the club.
That they may or may not have.
You're breaking up a little
No,
bit.
she's just talking about the
And so
opportunities. Like people don't know these opportunities exist.
Okay. And so like I was gonna make a joke about civil engineers, but I don't know if that's something at Hunter.
we don't
Do you
have
know what I'm talking?
engineering, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think so. No.
When I was an undergrad, we had a joke. We had a running joke about the civil engineers are not real engineers because it's like the liberal arts of engineering. But anyway, tell me more about this event. So you had this event recently called Waffle Games. What was that all about?
So for Waffle Games, this is a big event. We do this. It's an annual event for the EGD Collective, and we generally bring in game developers, we bring in keynote speakers, and then we who are usually either industry professionals, esports players, or that type of thing, and we let them exhibit for for free. And a lot of the events in New York City don't do this, and we also let students who are developers show off what they've been working on while they're in school. So, for example, we have our game studio program where we have students who they join our program. We hook them up with their students, and they become like a small studio while they're in school. And Waffle Games is an opportunity for them to break into the industry and show off what they've been doing throughout the year and like what projects they've been working on. But also you have a lot of indie developers from around the city just coming in to show off the work that they've been like the games, the passion project they've been working on for the last like few years. And it's hard for them to do it otherwise.
Basically, Waffle Games is almost like a mini PAX East, but free and based in Hunter College.
Yeah.
And so there's an exhibit hall, there's tournaments, there's workshops, there's talks, all that good stuff, and it's all free. And the idea is that not only because most events like this aren't free, and for a lot of indie developers, which is most of New York City, we don't have a lot of AAA studios here. They can't afford the $1,000 that is usually at the low end to exhibit at these kinds of conventions, and students definitely can't afford that. And so it's about our wider mission of bringing accessibility to games, but at the same time, it's a very collaborative environment. Regardless of people's skill level, you can come in, show off your work, learn from each other, and it's just an overall like positive environment and space to be in.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to ask this earlier, but so do you have to be a student to attend any of the EGD Collective events?
You
That
do not.
used to be the case. That used to be the case, but thankfully now we've opened up to the public as much as we possibly can. So we like Waffle Games 3.0 was complete. It was online because of recent situation with COVID.
COVID.
But yeah, but we've had people from all over the world come to Waffle Games 3.0.
Was that surprising that people, so like what did you expect when you first went virtual? Because I'd love to talk about that. I love talking about how events might have had a physical component and how they're adapting to virtual events.
For
I think
me,
okay.
Like when we first saw the warning signs that school was going to close and that events were going to be canceled, I had it in the back of my mind that we were going to turn it virtual and to start preparing for that, because we had already started planning this thing for about 3 months out prior, and it was actually only 2 weeks away when Hunter and CUNY shut down. And I didn't want everyone's hard work to go to waste, but at the same time, I knew just how important it was to continue having events in a time like this. And I thought there was really no better way to continue supporting people by continuing to have the events that we were going to have, and providing that platform. And by bringing it online, it did allow us to reach people that were outside of our network. And part of accessibility is being able to reach people out of your network. And so I'm not sure what this will mean for future Waffle Games, but because we do really value that in-person experience, because it's completely different, but there's definitely a lot of things that we can do now after
I think you dropped out for a second there.
I
But
stopped, but
it's fine. Let's see.
No, I think everyone's sadly having those issues because everyone's home now. But yeah, like we value the in-person experience, but a lot of these online events have also taught us a lot about engaging more people online and how important it is that we're likely going to have a mix of the two. But so our major events would likely still be in-person events in New York City, and then we would also have more online events that would like be meant for people from across the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious about, because like this is something that's a lot of event series or organizations are going through right now. And I'm just curious about like how do you maybe move forward, right? So there are advantages to being fully virtual, right? So if you think about like companies and being remote hires, there used to be a lot of apprehension because there's this thought that we need everybody to be in the same office building so they can collaborate more effectively, because the video conferencing stuff just doesn't work well for us. But then a lot of companies and events are going virtual, and there are another set of advantages to that. So you suddenly your market is the entire world or anybody that has internet. And so there's advantages to that. You have a much wider reach. So I'm just curious about how people are thinking about maybe what's going to happen afterwards when you don't have to be virtual. Like, are organizations going to be virtual and physical, or what's going to happen there?
interestingly enough, gaming has always been the opposite, and that's why I find it so important for us to hold in-person events, to show that how important it is to get together in person. But gaming is one of the things that you can do online, and that's why esports and things like this are one of the few things standing during COVID. I'm not sure what this means for waffle games, because a part of accessibility is being able to reach people that can't attend in person. So maybe it'll mean a hybrid event, but we definitely want to still have that in-person experience, because it is very important, especially in gaming, which is seen as an anti-social activity, even though it's really not.
That's an interesting thought. So your event series is probably coming has maybe like a different, I want to say prejudice, or like a different like stigma, which is like, okay, gamers can actually operate fairly virtually for a long time. Is it fair to say that part of your motivation for creating this event series is that no, we need to meet in person? Was that the appeal?
That's definitely part of
Yeah,
it.
definitely part of the appeal.
Cool. How was the virtual graduation? What was that?
So that was my pet project that I took on for the past 2 weeks. And it was similar to how we wanted to keep waffle games online alive. A lot of schools were shutting down their graduation ceremonies, or they were postponing them or not having them at all. And as a part of our expansion, we're working to support schools that are outside of New York City, and I thought this would be a great way to begin to do that virtually. It was to hold a graduation ceremony for gamers, game designers, and esports students that are about to go into an industry that is known for being extremely unstable at a very unstable time in general. And I couldn't really think of a worse way to send people off into the wider world than, oh God, our industry is not in a great place and the world's not in a great place. And I just graduated in a pandemic. What do I do? And so we brought together a whole bunch of industry professionals to give keynote and commencement speeches. We had students submit their names, their majors, and their schools, and we had them and photos from their time in collegiate and have them go across the screen. And we gave out some awards, and there was an after party online where people could get together, play games, talk, and network, and it was open to college students that were graduating everywhere. So we had students from Canada submitting their information, and other countries, and it was just a really cool thing that was streamed on Twitch for about 40 minutes, and then everyone got together to play games afterwards. And
I,
oh, it's okay. I saw in the chat room on the side that people were getting really into it, and they're just like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry, this is so great, this is beautiful. I'm not. And then some people that weren't even graduating, they're just watching, they're just like, oh my God, this is so cool. um, and so I think it's really a testament to what people can do when they team up and get together. And we worked with another organization that just was founded, called Intercollegiate Game Network, and it was the response of college esports leaders, when their events were getting shut down to COVID, to come together and create an online event for themselves. And so we teamed up to do that.
The So are you ever gonna host like another online graduation?
I don't know if I'll host another online graduation. If I'm being honest, I think this was a one-time thing just because of the way COVID was. It would be nice to do something similar in the future, but it might be a similar style of event or stream, but it would probably have a different theme or topic.
Yeah, I don't think it would really be needed after COVID,
Hmm.
because everyone would have their own graduation ceremonies again.
Yeah, but I
Well,
definitely think like as a celebration of like for instance if we made a celebration about the indie developers that did come from these public institutions, like that might be interesting. But like there's no like official plans to do anything in the future just yet in terms of future graduations.
okay. Well, fingers crossed. But if the pessimist in me is like, well, if we have to, I guess it would happen again. But fingers crossed. Hopefully, it's not necessary, and it's just a one-time thing. I'm curious about like how do you sort of, because you all can create your own software, if you will, right? So you can create your own games. What sort of tools do you use for your events? how do you typically organize this stuff?
Discord.
Discord,
Gamers, so
Google's
we use Discord.
Discord and Google Suite. Those are the two best friends of anyone you know that wants to organize these type of events. Like, you don't even really need Google Suite. You can just use Google, shared Google Drive with people. Like, but start like it was basically grassroots because we didn't really get much support from our college. We didn't really have any money of our own because we're all in college. So a lot of this came from us using free tools to organize everything, and just having the help of the people around us who wanted to volunteer and who wanted to be a part of this event and help out. So yeah, Discord is completely free. Google's entire thing is completely free. Those are like the two best event organization tools you can use if you want things for free.
We also started using things like HubSpot for like CRM management, tracking
Yeah.
emails, all that kind of thing. So
I'm sorry, the the CRM management. So who are your customers, if you don't mind?
So we use it kind of untraditionally. We used it specifically just to track emails that we send to potential sponsors, speakers, exhibitors, those kinds of things. So then we can keep a log of who's contacting each individual, and if like who, just kind of to streamline that process and make sure people aren't double emailing the same people. And just have a better record of our communications with them. So we don't really treat it like a sales platform as what it's intended to use. It's really just for that.
That's actually really interesting. I did not know that HubSpot, like I heard of it, but I didn't know it was a CRM, and I didn't know you could use it in more untraditional ways. So I'll definitely take a look at that for my personal projects. Tell me more about like, okay, so why are you choosing to make it a nonprofit? Like, could you walk me through that decision making? So you're running an event series. What compels you to say, hey, we should be a nonprofit or not? And then what are you struggling with there? Is it easy? Is it hard?
So grants was the thing that was most driving us to incorporate as a nonprofit over a normal corporation. Because we're such an interdisciplinary thing, we cover education, we cover the arts, we cover STEM, we cover like class-based things, diversity. We can qualify for a lot of different grants and programs, and that's what we want to. We have a very social mission at the core of everything, and so to qualify for those things is very important. At the same time, since our mission is a social one, just the idea of being a nonprofit seems a lot more fitting. And most people don't realize, but the difference between a nonprofit and a normal corporation is very small in the grand of things. It's mostly a tax designation. You can still make a profit. You just can't have shareholders or anything like that. You can pay employees. You can hire people. You can sell things. Just all of the money has to go back into the organization itself, and it can't be used, for other purposes. And your money raising activities needs to be aligned with the mission that is stated on your tax documents.
Did you already mention what the mission statement is for EDG Collective?
So our little elevator pitch is that we are a nonprofit organization that supports games industry accessibility through higher education, public higher education. So all of our activities are free or very, very low cost if we cannot make them free. And it's really all about accessibility in all of its forms. So whether it's money, whether it's feeling alienated or discriminated against, whether it's working conditions, all of those things are covered in what we try to combat.
The public, I'm just trying to key in onto this term, public higher education. Is that what makes it, okay, I can be an adult and I'm just curious about game design and I can attend one of your events? Is that what that term means?
Well, that's definitely a part of it. So the reason why we're attacking public higher education is because it's since it's a lot cheaper than private schools by a lot, it's a lot easier for people to afford to go get a degree or to go take classes there, whereas a lot of game development programs are currently in either private universities that have $50,000 a semester tuition, or they're these private boot camp style things that may cost $2,000, $3,000 for an 8-week course to teach you Unity. And that's not affordable for people. But if you can go to your local community college and just learn game design, that opens up a lot of doors, and you don't have to be any certain age to go to those kinds of institutions. And so that's really the whole reason why that's our focus point. It's just the easiest way for us to further our mission.
It's also a matter of like private institutions already do the ones that do exist. If you can afford to go to a private institution, you can afford to pick one that has the infrastructure you need for these kind of game design things. But a lot of like the CUNYs, for instance, like they just don't have the infrastructure for these type of courses, and like we're there to help facilitate that.
Yeah, I'm just curious, as someone I haven't been to one of your events, I'm just curious, like, do I need to be a CUNY student in order to attend one of these EGD Collective events?
You do not. So even though I've graduated and the nonprofit is separate from the Hunter College Club, we still work very closely with them, and they're our first chapter of EGD, and we're expanding to get these programs into all 18 of the CUNY undergraduate colleges. You are allowed to attend events on campus as long as you register them with public safety. So the public can attend every single event that we host inside the school building.
Yeah, it's just a matter of signing up in advance for most of those events.
Okay. And I'm just curious because like I run my own events, and there's like an entire, so now that you said that it's open to the public, that comes with like a completely other set of issues. When you're running the real life events, did you ever run into odd characters showing up to the events that maybe
Yes.
like what do you do when that happens? Like, what was the issue?
So we're best friends with public safety. They love us because we're really good at handling these issues and knowing when to report things, when to talk to them, all that kind of thing. And so we work really closely with them to ensure that doesn't happen, but when it does, they're really quick to respond. And so that's also one of the benefits of being attached to collegiate, is that we don't have to pay for our own safety, like in security things. We can the school will provide through the appropriate channels to do that. And at least at Hunter, public safety security for outsiders is really tight. You have to be on that list or you don't get in. And so it is very hard to like sneak into an event. But people have done it. And our second Waffle Games, when it was only open to CUNY students, people did do that. We had students from like FIT and New School and NYU trying to sneak in, and that's what keyed into us that we should probably open up the event, because it was really much needed. But at the same time, it also opened our eyes to what that meant for security reasons. But when we plan our events, we go through very, very like in-depth training with our officers and staff to handle like crisis issues. And that's also a big thing with the whole mission of our organization is with students. A lot of the students go through many different types of crises during their college career, and including handling like, just event odd characters that show up. And it's very important that we train the student officers of these organizations to be able to know how to handle that, and when it's appropriate to hand it off to somebody that is qualified or trained to handle those kinds of situations, when they should take a step back.
Yeah, it's just the reason I bring it up, and this is an appealing topic to me, is because I have run into these a few issues when actually it just comes with the territory. So if you really are running a real event, and a lot of people have never done this, so they don't realize all of the issues involved in running a real event. And I think a lot of it boils down to having, being able to read the room and being able to like speak up if just something, this is something that's not conducive to kind of like the event you're trying to curate. Because at the end of the day, you're the host. A lot of people are looking for to you for leadership as to what are we doing here, why are we here, how does this go. So I think it just comes with the territory. And if you're not ready to do that and provide that sort of, this is direction, maybe running an event is not for you. I think it requires a certain level, a certain personality, and not everybody has that personality. It's tough sometimes when a hard decision needs to be made. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like a lot of events are literally just, oh, hey, yeah, that like you want the people who attend to think it's fine, but there's no way you're gonna avoid most of the problems that happen. Like some of them are just unavoidable. Like there wasn't enough foresight. Like something unexpected came up. Like there's always something that creates a problem at the event. But at the end of the day, it's important that you focus on what the attendees think about the event by the end of the day. So a lot of them, like there can be a lot of issues. We've definitely had our fair share of issues in our in-person events. But at the end of the day, as long as the attendee was like, wow, that was actually amazing. That like I had no issues with that. Like the like because they don't know. Like we work hard. Like you have to work really hard to make sure that like your attendees don't know what happened. Or so like you have to be very proactive about like nipping those things in the bud as quickly as possible.
Yeah. You can plan as much as you want, but you can never plan enough and something will always go wrong. Like the event
Always.
will be on fire halfway through, and I think really the key on whether or not we've done our job is if nobody noticed that it was on fire during the event. If the attendees all came away with this was really cool, they didn't notice that there was chaos going on in the background, then we've done our job, because there's no way to prevent all of the chaos. There's always going to be something, no matter how thorough we are with all of our plans and scenarios A, B, C, and D.
Cool. So it sounds like you are all getting good feedback, and I know from my events, my personal experience, that's what makes it all worth it. When people go to you after the event, they're like, hey man, I loved it, good job. And that's why I do it. Could you maybe talk about your EGD Collective summer series and some upcoming events for our listeners, or like what's in the pipeline?
So the EGD Summer Series is going to be a bunch of events we're hosting with ABGL, I believe, and we'll be hosting it for games like Valorant, Overwatch, League of Legends, Teamfight Tactics, and CS:GO. There's more on the pipeline for the time being, because not all the details are finalized just yet. But these are going to be all completely free events, and they'll be weekly. Like if you like, they'll be hosted in our Discord server. So a lot of these are just completely free events with like with pricing as well, and like they're all completely open to the public.
In addition to the tournaments, we'll also be hosting AMAs and talks with professionals. So people will be able to come in and we'll have like a game developer or someone that works in esports, and students and anybody that wants to, so not just students, can come in and just ask them anything, or they'll be hosting a workshop style kind of talk where they can get a little more in-depth on a certain subject. And it really all comes back to the reasons why we exist, and being able to provide free education and gaming and like events for people everywhere.
Well, cool. I'm glad that there's people like yourselves working on good missions like that. So for our listeners that want to maybe reach out to you, where can they do that, and where can they register for your next events? Where can they get in touch with you?
So our website is egdcollective.org, and you can email us anytime at info@egdcollective.org, and our social handles are just EGD Collective on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our Discord link is just EGDC if you know how to use Discord. If you don't, you can go to discord.gg and it'll tell you how to do that.
All right, cool. Well, if that's all, any last minute thoughts before we end the call?
Oh, I just want to say thank you. This is a really nice opportunity, and honestly, I think the more people we can get to these events, the more people that can learn a lot more about the games industry and like how they can get into it as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
No, thank you. Thanks for being on the show, and I look forward to hearing more about your event series in the future. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.